Welcome to the Creative AI Show. What do we have this week, Brian?
Hey, Rosh, happy to be here. We are two creative guys talking AI. And, I had quite the project I put up yesterday on our YouTube channel. Not sure if you saw it there, but it was a start and end frame showdown
Yeah.
of four of the big players in that world. So Kling, Hailuo, Veo, Sea Dance. And there was so much fail, Rosh. We are not there yet. Our channel will continue to have relevance into the next week and next month because these things, they're not there. So I want to talk about physics. I want to talk about pushing these engines and just why, I think we're perpetually disappointed for a little bit. I mean, none
Yeah.
of these updates have really solved these things. We've talked about the Rune Goldberg things. Now I've tried to do a few
hmm
sports tests. So we'll go down that rabbit hole a bit. And then also, I want to talk today about the big news coming from OpenAI. Not sure if our listeners are starting to see this yet, but at the free level and just that $8 a month level
Yeah.
one year, they're starting to roll some ads into OpenAI. So I want to talk from two different perspectives. One of them being the users of an LLM like ChatGPT. How is this going to affect us? Where and
Right.
how are these ads going to be interjected? And then the other side of that coin is as digital marketers, how are we going to get our clients to be on ChatGPT and get their ads delivered? Is
Yeah.
there, is there a user interface like Google or Meta? So I've got the answers. I've done some research on that, so I'm excited to talk about all that. What do you have going on today, my friend?
Oh, I'm going to share some of the new updates. There's mostly
Good.
just updates with some of the main sites such as LTX has an update,
Hmm.
Flux, and so forth. There was one big launch, and that is Claude Cowork. So we'll get
Okay.
into that. And then I want to talk about the future of the AI team. I mean, we talk
Yeah.
about that every once in a while, and there's been more conversations about this in some of the big conferences lately. And so I want to just dig into it a little more again.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to hear about that. And yeah, we've got to be forward thinking about how we're building our companies and how we're interjecting this technology. And we have to be very mindful and intentful of that going forward. So, all right. So let's talk about this start and end frame showdown. So in the world of AI video, there's three main directions that people make things in. And, there's the prompt to video,
Yep.
which is, can be unpredictable. You can get some really good results on it, but, repeatable things that are the same mood, same character, same feel, that's kind of tough. So then you enter in frame to video. And that's where, and I've noticed from our comments and, people listening to the show that really that's where the money's made, where you can then, go to something like Image 1.5 or Nano Banana or, and get a really, really high quality, high res image. But most importantly, a consistent scene, a consistent character. And then, so that way you could produce things that are, have good continuity. Then there's the start to end frame technology, which, things like the age morph videos that I've talked about before, or the
Yeah.
retelling of history. And that's where you give it a start, you give it a finish, and then you try to prompt it to get you somewhere to marry these two images and have it flow together. And, flow, it's funny I said that because in Google Veo 3.1, in Flow, they've offered this start and end frame technology for some time, but I think it's actually Veo's weakest output. It
A
really
lot of the
struggles.
image to video, you would think that image to video would be strong,
Right.
but because you're giving it a starting point. But honestly, if it's text to video, it makes all the choices. It doesn't
Yes.
have to adhere to your initial image.
Right. Yeah, so that's where, as I'm excited as all these updates come out, whether it be Kling or whether it be Hailuo or any of these other ones, because it's like I want them to understand the physics. And, I wonder if some of these AI engines are going to have to work with some of the video game companies. So here's just a thought where, the video game companies, whether they be snowboarding games or they be football games or basketball games, but they have, I don't want to say mastered sports physics, but they are really, really good. And especially, the Madden games or the NBA 2K games or
Oh
anything
yeah.
like that, you watch the motion of them now, and, they've got years of iterations of putting sensors on players and, really getting their motions down. And are some of these companies maybe going to have to lend some of that information and that technology over to the AI companies to be able to master things like physics at this higher level? Because I put a prompt in that says, throw the football downfield. We all know what, a quarterback in a good throwing motion looks
Of
like.
course.
And we're seeing this like backhanded little glitch thing, and all of a sudden the ball's 30 yards down the field. Or, it's just nothing looks
Right.
natural at all. And, maybe, I even said in the video, maybe because, Kling or Hilo, maybe because they're not made in America, maybe they don't understand the physics of an American football game as much. So, I wonder if maybe I did soccer, maybe something that's a little more of an international game of, more cultures.
It's
But
worth testing. I
yeah,
mean, because it is all dependent on what these AIs are trained on, and if they're
yeah.
not trained on American football, but I don't know. I don't know.
There's enough information out there about how American football looks. It's become an international game at least. So I don't know if I'm maybe making excuses for it, but so what I tried to do in this video yesterday is I wanted to take 5 different eras of the Lions versus the Packers. So I started out in Lambeau Field in the 50s, and then I went to Tiger Stadium in the early 70s. Then I went to the Silverdome in the 90s, and then finally Ford Field in the 2010s, and then
Did it
had,
know the difference?
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. So Nano
Yeah.
Banana did an amazing job putting the scenes just right.
Oh, nice.
You could even see what it looked like to play football in Tiger Stadium in the early
Oh, that's
70s.
cool.
And it matched it, with the right uniforms at the time. When it was the Silver Dome, I asked for it to include Barry Sanders, so his number 20 jersey and running back in the Silver Dome. Then I had Calvin Johnson catching a ball in Ford Field. So,
Nice.
it got the scenes right.
Yeah.
So I was really excited about where this video was going to
And
go.
that's valuable information. Just what you said, that it was able to go
Yeah,
through all that. Somebody listening could say, "Oh, how else could I apply that information?" So that's
right.
great.
Yeah, yeah, and it was an outside the box video, and here I am thinking, hey, I'm doing this video for YouTube, but if I really nail this, this might even be something that can get the attention of the NFL to tell a story differently or have a little interlude, as you're leading into a game to watch these eras blend in. So what I did, Rosh, was I made an entire play. So I was like, all right, meet them in the huddle in the 50s, and then they're on the line of scrimmage now in the 70s. All right, the play starts in the 90s, and he fakes hiking the ball to Barry Sanders, throws the ball downfield, and all of a sudden we're, Calvin Johnson in the
Yeah.
2010s catches it. And then Calvin Johnson celebrates with Gibbs and St. Brown in, a
Oh, fun.
nowadays, to
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
blend in, the generation. So I'm like, this is kind of a cool concept. It showed the Packers as their uniforms, changed throughout time. But I was just so frustrated. So out of, these 4 transitions and 4 different videos, engines doing it. So 16 different videos I produced. I
Oh,
would
well.
say two to three of them were good.
Oh,
It
that's
was,
disappointing.
yeah. And we're talking Kling '01, we're talking Hilo 020, Veo 3.1 Fast, or C-Dance 1.0 Pro. And actually, C-Dance is the one that impressed me the most. And this is my first time
Yeah.
I ever used it. And I used it in Leonardo.
Yeah. Yeah. Sea Dance is pretty good. I think they have 1.5 now, don't they? Did you
They
try
do, but
that?
it's not available in Leonardo. So I
Oh,
was just
okay.
using what
Okay.
I
Yeah,
had
try that.
available
That's
there.
that's a good one too. I mean,
Okay.
I'm still Sora
Did
and
it?
VO3 seem 3.1 seems to still be the best, at the end of the day. Like Nano Banana still is the number one. But in some situations, stuff like, engines like Hailuo and as well as C-Dance can certainly
Yeah.
do a good job and even beat those two in certain
Right.
situations.
Well, Hilo had a latest update of 2.3, but that only supports start frame, not start end frame.
Oh, okay.
So that might be one of the big differences there. So that's why I had to dumb that one down a little bit because, motion and physics and stuff, that's what really Hilo was claiming to be good. And I've
Right.
produced videos, a few weeks back where it was like somebody dancing with flowy fabric and it looked beautiful. Like I was like, okay, you're getting these dancing motions good. But then, when we add sports where there's, 4 or 5, different people on actually 10 to 12 in some of these scenes, that's where it was starting to confuse and break these engines. So a little frustrating there.
Right.
So, all right, very good. Yeah, throw it back your way here. Let's talk about some new stuff and new updates. I'm really excited to hear about Claude's Cowork.
Yeah, so I mean, well, let's start off with Flux to
Mm,
Klein. It's been getting some notoriety. It's an update. Flux 2 is been out for a little while now, and Klein is the name that they've given this one. There's a 4B and a 9B. I'm not sure what the differences are off the top of my head, but it did
okay.
a really good job. I compared it to Nano Banana,
Hmm.
and it was kind of a 60-40 scenario where Nano Banana won 60% of the time, but Flux
Nice.
actually actually beat Nano Banana in some of the cases, and some were kind of a tie. And there's even a little debate about some of them in the comments, like, no, I
Yeah.
think you're a little off on that. I think I went back. I'm like, no, I'm on the Flux team on this one, But then there are other
Interesting.
ones. Nano Banana just kick butt. So
Now we're using Pro, using Nano Banana
yes,
Pro.
Nano
Okay.
Banana
Because
Pro. Thank you for
there's a
asking.
big difference
Absolutely.
I've noticed even in comparing within Nano Banana. You step it
Yeah,
up to that
and
Pro
actually,
level. Yeah.
I made note of that based on a comment you made to
Okay.
somebody. You were saying, "Oh yeah, Nano Banana Pro is the thing," and I'm like, you're right. And but I think I've always defaulted to Pro anyway, so it
Right.
hasn't been an issue. But
Yeah.
I've kept an extra, eye on make sure I'm in Pro, just based on your comment. Um, let's see. So LTX 2, that came out. That's an update, kind of like the Flux 2 Klein. Not too bad. That's out if you're a LTX fan. But LTX, it's video. They certainly are trying. They've made some big updates over the last 6 months. Where they were a year ago was really, Will Smith eating spaghetti,
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
bad at the time. But they have upgraded a lot. They're trying. They have audio now. That's not really good. If you want somebody to say something, it'll kind of be like an overdub kind of a thing. So, but they're trying. I still for some reason have a feeling they're a studio, because you can get them at LTX dot studio, and they have a whole series of custom types of generators, for different types of tasks. And I think they're really trying. I don't know why, but I have this feeling they're gonna be able to pull something out at some point. So I don't know. I think probably because they've been around a long time,
Right.
and it's a company that's been around. The company backing it's been around for a while time, so they have an opportunity. Um, and then Claude Cowork, which
Yeah.
is really kind of like an AI agent scenario where you can have multiple things going on at once. Now, they have announced that it's available for pro users, which I've not seen. It was
Mm.
available for Max only, which is the $100 a month. And I'm just waiting to get my little greedy fingers on it to start playing and setting up some systems, but I have not been able to do so yet. But I have a feeling in the next couple of days, and I'd be able to report back by next week. From what I've seen, some people really feel this is kind of, although there's some work to be done, this is the future of work, is the
Okay.
way Claude Cowork is coming together
That's
as an
exciting.
agent, as a place to work and to connect, and that you'll be using a setup kind of like this in the future. So
Very cool. Yeah, it's fun to see these things lay out and, just kind of learn how we can use these tools at a higher level and interact with them because it's like, you get something that can do everything and it's like sometimes you struggle getting it to do anything. So,
yeah,
yeah, I'm
right.
excited to
Well,
see, how
you
that
have
lays
to
out.
have a problem first, and that's where the issue quite often is people's like, I want to use AI. Okay, for
For
what?
what?
You know,
Yeah,
dig into your problems. What are your business problems? What are your creative problems? And then look to AI to fix it.
right.
And that's the
Good
better
point.
way to go.
Very good. All right, cool. Let's talk about some ChatGPT ads. I know you mentioned that you got
Yeah.
a few things to say about this, and it's
Yeah, absolutely.
exciting thing. I mean, we knew this was coming. There's been rumors for a while, and just
Although a year ago
OpenAI
they said
is
ads would never
yeah.
be on ChatGPT. But we'll forget about
But
that.
we'll forget about that because that's a long time. That's in like dog
That was
years.
last
This is
century.
ChatGPT years, right? It's last century, right? But we've known for a while that OpenAI's business model is just not sustainable. They are losing money left and right. So ads were inevitable. We knew that was going to happen. So let's get some information here quickly to our audience. First of all, who will see the ads, the free tier and the go tier. So that's your $8 a month. You
Right.
will start to see ads. The plus users, that's me, $20 a month. Pro, business, enterprise, no ads for now. They are still saying for now, and this is straight from GPT 5.2, so I trust it. Where are the ads going to appear? First of all, they will be clearly labeled that they are ads. They will be separate from the AI response, but they will be intent based to your conversation. So,
Right.
say you're doing a recipe, which a lot of people use, ChatGPT for. You might see an ad for a certain type of seasoning that has to do with that recipe. So they will be more directed to what you're talking about, but it will not change or bias the responses
So they say.
because of that. So
I
they
mean,
say. I know,
it
right?
may or may not. I mean, it might not. I mean, there may be, it's probably a separate system. I mean, so I'm going to give
Right,
it that. And of course they say, they're not going to share data. Well, they don't have to share the data. They're using the data,
right.
so you to put ads out there. I mean, so, but yeah, I've seen a couple examples and it's not
Okay.
that offensive.
Okay. Yeah, I'm yet to see it yet, but again, I'm living my swanky life here at the $20 a month. So, hopefully I'll stay away from that world, but I am curious to see how it comes out. So as of right now, there's no ads manager dashboard user interface like Google or Meta. There's no bidding system, no targeted controls or anything like that. But in the future, it will be intent-based placements. And it could evolve into an ads manager later, which I'm sure, the both of
I
us will be watching,
I hope
closely.
so, and I hope have something like an MCC which you can run multiple accounts because how
Hmm.
are you going to advertise, if yeah, anyway, I guess that's agency problem, not individual person problem that
Right, right.
I'm losing literally waking up in the middle of the night thinking, how in the world are we going to do this with
Yeah.
our advertising and I mean, I
Yeah.
literally woken up a couple times thinking exactly, well, how are we going to manage this and how are they going to give us something good? Or are they going to give us a
Right.
really tough, horrible scenario?
Well, I anticipate it being good. I mean, obviously, they've, you know, done well up until this point that they're still the biggest name in LLMs. People, in general know ChatGPT more than they know Gemini. So
Oh yeah.
they've done a lot of right things so far. So hopefully it's a good usable interface and when Google's your closest competition, that means you're looking very closely at what they do. So they're probably going to have something close to it. So I'm hoping, especially for our sake, being digital marketers.
No.
So, all right. Well, anything else you want to mention on the
No,
ChatGPT
no,
ads?
I think I mean I'm diving in as soon as it's available. I mean that's
Right.
just the bottom line. It's part of the future and
Yeah.
they're going to have some Gemini ads coming too.
Yep.
That's a given. I mean that system's already there in place, so that's going to start to happen. We don't have directly these are Gemini ads. You can't do anything right now. Nor do I think there are ads on Gemini, but there's going to be.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. That they'll go in that direction. So, all right. Let's throw it to your way to close us on out today. We'll talk about the future of the AI team.
Yeah, so we're just thinking about there's conversations about big ad agencies and how, it's just they're just not necessary. And I think that's going to be the case in a lot of industries. It's just the narrowing down of, I mean, when is AI going to just take it all over and do it all? We more we watch, more it seems like that's further and further from the future.
Right.
And there's a lot of pushback. Like, look, it's still just a probability machine that just, what's the probability the next word comes after the next word? And it's just really a complex probability machine like, Google caffeine. But hey, it's highly useful. You know,
Hmm.
it's really useful. This whatever you want to complain about or say it really is, that's fine. And it allows, people to do more things and be more effective. And so the future creative AI director is going to be the, person with the idea, and they're going to have a couple people to support, such as the writer. They're going to have
Hmm.
somebody who is as much of a writer as the editor. You know, here's
Hmm.
the prompt, and now I'm going to go through and edit it and tweak it and work with the AI. And then the tech person who may need to write code or understand code or to connect various MCPs or APIs or various, technical stuff, security in the cloud. That's going to be an important person. And then, of course, the creative who creates the images and edits the images. Again,
Right.
put the prompt in. Somebody has to go through and decide. Yes, AI can create 1,000 versions of what you're asking for, but somebody still has to decide
Right.
what is the one we're going to use. And so you're going to have a slim team. And I think you started talking about earlier just even law and different
Hmm.
types of businesses that I think this is going to be more and more. You're going to have the idea person or the person who interfaces with the client, and then just a small team behind them. And I think a good your example earlier, you were talking about law and how a lawyer could just do it all themselves. You won't need a whole team of paralegals and all
4 or 5
these.
paralegals, right?
Yeah. But the lawyer's still going to be the person who interacts with the
Shows
client
up
and
to
is going to
court,
want to do, yeah,
right?
is going to want to do it. They're not going to want to do this stuff. And so they'll have, rather than, so I think the better way to look at it is rather than 4 or 5 paralegals, they have one. They have one that's going to do the research,
Yeah.
and that's it. And so I think that's the type of scenario we're dealing with in the creative world. But I also do see new types of, I don't know, new types of creatives being developed too. There may be, again, different specialties are going to be developed and come out of this. And I think we need to keep an eye on what those might be. And
Hmm.
especially in this show, just start to really think about, and when we notice them, which we've done so, just
Right.
start mentioning these are some new, kind of just like when drones came out, there are people who are really good at flying drones and doing really cool drone stuff. And you got to do it if you're going to show your business, you can't just do it all AI. I mean, you got to have you know, uh, at least right now, a drone go flying through and showing it right.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, it's just the combination of, using those skills together. I mean, I actually read something, talk about the law situation that law firms now are being so much more productive with a reduced staff that's just, utilizing these tools for research and, they're off to the races. It's like, that same analogy. And they're in the Ferrari every day. That's how far they can get as opposed to being on a bike
right.
or a Honda Civic or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's an exciting time. Not everybody's going to be out of a job immediately.
Right.
I think in the near future, we are creating stuff for humans, and we're going to have, I'm going to stake, over the next 10 years, we're going to have a heyday of new types of creatives popping up.
Right.
Where
New
we
types
are
of
with
businesses,
AI
new,
in 10
yeah.
years, who knows? But I
Yeah.
think over the next 10 years, we're going to have some interesting stuff happening.
Well, and it's kind of the ethos of our show of why we're doing what we're doing is to train people that, yeah, you know what, let's open your eyes here to this a bit. You're not just going to be replaced, but the information that we try to share every single day on YouTube or every week here on this show is the information you need to be armed with to continue to be, not just employable, but desired by companies because
Absolutely.
you're an employee that's supercharged with
Yeah.
information.
Very good. Well, I think that covers it. So you have been listening to Two Creative Guys Talking AI.
We'll talk to you next week.